Peace and light, y'all. I just wanted to bring something to the forefront real fast about something that I've been seeing in the media, and also revolving around this COVID-19 and the many different, suits and faces that the COVID-19 want to put on. And shout out to my big bro who sent me a message with a video clip about something that happened up in PA a couple of months ago, right? So I just put two and two together, and I came up with a little compilation of clips and everything. Even Stevie Wonder could have seen this shit coming, y'all. I swear for God, these people are so damn predictable, right? But, check this out.
I'd like to call to order this secret conclave of America's media empires. We're here to come up with the next phony baloney crisis to put Americans back where they belong, in dark rooms glued to their televisions, too terrified to skip the commercials.
Well, I think...
NBC, you are here to listen and not speak. I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
A new disease. No one's immune. It's like the summer of the shark, except instead of a shark, it's an epidemic. And instead of summer, it's all the time.
That is...
Now, I hate to be the guy who derails what everybody else loves.
He loves being that guy.
But, Janice, we do have standards. This can't be a made-up disease. The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
We do have something we've been holding on to, but it hasn't been tested. Get over here, NBC.
Well, we certainly believe in testing, but Wow. Oh, yeah.
So, we've got our deadly disease. Now, we just have to blame it on...
The Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, hosted Event 201, a high-level pandemic exercise on October 18, 2019 in New York. 3 months later, on January 18th, the first confirmed case of the C-19 in the States by the CDC.
It began in healthy-looking pigs, months, perhaps years ago. A new coronavirus spread silently within herds. Gradually, farmers started getting sick. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died. Experts agree, unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic, an outbreak that circles the globe and affects people everywhere.
The mission of the Pandemic Emergency Board is to provide recommendations to deal with the major global challenges arising in response to an unfolding pandemic. The board is comprised of highly experienced leaders from business, public health, and civil society.
We could be looking at double the number of cases in 1 week and 16 times as many in a month if we are not able to stop the spread. That would be on the order of 500,000 cases, and it would continue to rise exponentially. In 3 months, we could be approaching 10 million cases.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.
We have known about caps-like viruses in animals and people for decades, but have not been successful at developing a licensed vaccine. And sure, there are new technologies that may help, but it's going to be difficult. I am not optimistic about having a vaccine in time to be relevant during this pandemic.
So the policy crisis in question for this board in this meeting is this. How should governments, business, and international organizations allocate and distribute pandemic antivirals and medical supplies to the people who need them most?
Public health agencies have issued travel advisories, while some countries have banned travel from the worst affected areas. As a result, the travel sector is taking a huge hit. Travel bookings are down 45% and many flights have been canceled. A ripple effect is racing through the service sector. Governments that rely on travel and tourism as a large part of their economies are being hit particularly hard.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in whatever time zone or region. We're so glad that you can join us today. I'm Peggy Hamburg. I serve as the Interim Vice President for Global Biological Policy and Programs at the Nuclear Threat Initiative, and I'm just so pleased to be able to welcome you today to our side event on the margins of the BWC meeting of states parties. We are launching a new report. We are excited to share it with you. The new report is called Strengthening Global Systems to Prevent and Respond to High Consequence Biological Threats, and it summarizes key findings from a tabletop exercise that was jointly convened by the Nuclear Threat Initiative, NTI, and the Munich Security Conference back in March 2021. And it offers actionable recommendations for the international community as we continue our important work together to reduce the threats of pandemics and other biological catastrophes. Before we get into the detailed discussion of NTI's report and the exercise that informed it, I'd like to start by just offering some broad context to frame our conversation. I do have to begin by noting the irony of sorts in our undertaking a tabletop exercise, a simulated biological crisis involving an infectious disease agent, even as a true global pandemic was unfolding all around us. I think we all recognize how over the past almost 2 years now, the world has faced the devastating impact that a biological event can have on human health, economies, and political stability. The SARS coronavirus 2 has infected almost 260 million people around the world now, killed more than 5 million, and has led to enormous disruptions and dislocations in all of our lives and led to trillions of dollars in economic losses. It's revealed that national governments and the international community are woefully unprepared to respond to pandemics. The challenges that the world has faced over the past 21 months underscore our shared vulnerability to future catastrophic biological threats, which could meet or even exceed the severe consequences of the current pandemic. And while national and global leaders need to focus on the immediate demands of the COVID-19 response, the international community must also take action now to protect against future biological threats. These urgent actions must include the recognition that while naturally occurring pandemics continue to pose a significant threat, the next global catastrophe could result from misuse or deliberate abuse of the tools of modern biology or from a laboratory accident. We need to think about the continuum of concerns and potential threats before us, and we must develop systems for detection, preparedness, and response that will better protect against this range of serious potential concerns. Fundamentally, strengthening the preparedness of every nation to meet these challenges is a humanitarian imperative that we all share. Taking action to guard against these growing biological risks is also in the collective self-interest of the international community and in the self-interest of every nation around the globe. Even the most prepared nations will remain vulnerable as long as significant biosecurity and pandemic preparedness gaps remain in countries around the world. As I think we all recognize, we are only as safe as our weakest link. NTI recognizes the critical importance of strengthening the global biosecurity and pandemic preparedness architecture, and we're focused on catalyzing the development of stronger biosecurity and pandemic preparedness capabilities so the world is better able to prevent and respond to future biological risks, whatever may come. As part of our work to address these issues, NTI has partnered with the Munich Security Conference over the past 3 years to host annual tabletop exercises focused on reducing high-consequence biological threats. NTI and MSC have jointly convened international leaders and experts to explore gaps in the global biosecurity and pandemic preparedness architecture and to identify opportunities to address urgent needs. We're extremely grateful to our colleagues at the Munich Security Conference, who continue to be excellent partners, and we're delighted to have the opportunity to work with them. The report we're publishing today shares the lessons of the tabletop exercise that we jointly hosted in March of this year, and we hope to be able not only to give you some sense of what that exercise involved, the scenario being addressed, and the issues and concerns that the exercise helped to surface, but to also have a discussion that will put many of those ideas and the subsequent recommendations into the broader context of our COVID experience and beyond. So I'm very pleased to be able to kick off this session first by sharing a brief video excerpt from this exercise, which provides a short preview of the fictional scenario that we discussed. Thank you.
There are growing questions today around a new and deadly outbreak. Scientists determined that this monkeypox virus was engineered. Limited antiviral drugs and no known effective treatments, countries around the world are struggling to control another pandemic with already devastating effects.
Seeing far fewer cases in countries where governments took early and decisive action.
And some international experts are urging the WHO to adopt a phased approach to warnings.
A bizarre story involving the crash of a trailer full of monkeys headed to a lab and a woman now experiencing health problems after coming in close contact with the primates. The woman says she has been put on preventative medicine for the next 2 weeks, but there are some questions tonight into what these monkeys were being used for and what they could have been infected with.
Michelle Fallon never thought something like this would happen.
I thought, well, zoo monkeys. I didn't know these were animal test monkeys.
After witnessing a crash on a Pennsylvania highway and stopping to help, she learned the truck was carrying 100 monkeys from East Africa, headed for a Missouri test lab.
I thought they were, okay, they had their shots, they're good, they've been checked. I didn't know they could have diseases or whatever.
After checking to make sure the driver was okay, she went up to the trailer full of crates, thinking there were cats inside.
They had this green cloth over, so I peel it back and I go to stick my finger in there to try to pet it, and it pops its head up and I'm like, oh, it's a monkey.
3 of the monkeys escaped in the crash and 1 was recovered. 2 others were put down. But the hours-long escape forced health officials to issue an alert, warning the community not to come into close contact with the primates because the species commonly spreads herpes virus B.
I'm like, well, I was there and I touched everything.
That alert leaving Michelle on edge and unsure of what to do. Her close contact later leading to pink eye and flu-like symptoms.
I walked through their poop, I touched their crates, I tried to pet them, so now I don't know what's going on.
As a precaution, Michelle has now received her first rabies vaccination and has been prescribed antiviral medication as doctors continue to monitor her symptoms.
The location of the CDC quarantine facility where these monkeys were headed and the type of research that they were going to be used for has not been released, but this type of monkey is often used in medical studies.
I know who you are. I know what you think you're doing.
You don't want to get hurt. Keep your mouth shut and don't move a fucking muscle.
The chimps are infected. They're highly contagious. They've been given an inhibitor.
Infected with what?
In order to cure, you must first understand.
Infected with what?
Monkeypox was first discovered in 1958 when 2 outbreaks of a pox-like disease occurred in colonies of monkeys kept for research, hence the name monkeypox. The first human case of monkeypox was recorded in 1970 in the Democratic Republic of Congo. During a period of intensified effort to eliminate smallpox, since then, monkeypox has been reported in humans in other Central and Western African countries. Tabletop exercise is a scenario-based facilitated discussion that uses a fictional story to stimulate dialogue among practitioners and experts and to highlight key issues that need to be addressed, with the aim of gaining valuable insights about effective approaches for solving difficult problems. They are frequently used by a range of professions to prepare for worst-case scenarios. And why exactly did they do it? In 2021, the NTI and MSc tabletop exercise was specifically designed to raise awareness among experts and leaders about high-consequence biological risks, to highlight gaps in global biosecurity and pandemic preparedness capabilities, and to help identify solutions and concrete actions that leaders can take to address these vulnerabilities. Oh yeah, y'all, one more thing. I did a little research and I found out that these vaccines are not only manufactured, but they're also heavily invested in also. Remember how during the pandemic or the plandemic, you heard of people getting richer during the outbreak, right? So check this out. The companies that are producing the vaccines are owned and invested in by its owners. I have a list, so grab a pen. The first is the Vanguard Group, an American investment group with over 7.5 trillion holdings in assets. The second, BlackRock, also an investment advisory multinational management corporation, and they hold more than $10 trillion in assets under their management. 2 big asset firms that also hold shares in Sega Technologies, a pharmaceutical company that produced $7.5 million worth of TPOXX vaccine. And you have Bavarian Nordic, a fully integrated vaccine company focused on the development, manufacturing, and commercialization of life-saving vaccines. Y'all take notice that I said commercialization. Commercialization is the process of managing or running something principally for the financial gain. Oh yeah, the largest shareholder is Invesco, and that happens to be partnered with the World Economic Forum. So, is this really about preparedness or about money and control?